As Michael and his host descended upon the earth, the very ground beneath them trembled, and the skies darkened ominously, heralding the impending doom of Samiza and his fallen comrades. Alara, the young wife of one of the fallen angels, stood frozen in terror with the other women, their hearts pounding as they awaited the unknown fate that loomed over them. These women, drawn unwittingly into a cosmic conflict far beyond their understanding, could only watch as the world around them descended into chaos. But in the midst of this impending cataclysm, the Lord, in his boundless mercy, had not forgotten these women. As Michael, the fierce archangel, approached with the fury of divine justice, he was met by another radiant figure cloaked in an ethereal light, Gabriel, the messenger of God. With a voice that resonated with authority and compassion, Gabriel delivered a message of hope. Michael. Gabriel began, "The Lord has seen the innocence of these women. Though they were deceived by the fallen ones, their hearts remain pure. They shall not share the same fate as those who led them into this darkness." This story, hidden within the ancient texts of the Book of Enoch, reveals a time long before the Great Flood, when the earth was corrupted by the unholy unions between angels and mortal women. Michael had been commanded by God to descend to the ailing earth, to bind and imprison the leader of the fallen angels, Samiza, and his vile cohort. These angels had defiled themselves by taking the daughters of men, whose beauty, once a blessing, had become a curse. It was a curse that had enticed beings not of this world to forsake their divine nature, allured by the physical pleasures they could find only on earth. The women, unaware of the consequences of their actions, became the conduits for an evil so great that it threatened the very existence of the world. As the sons born from these forbidden unions turned against one another, bloodshed and sorrow spread across the land. The Lord, seeing the devastation wrought by these unholy beings, commanded Michael to act with swift justice. "Go," said the Lord, "bind Samiza and his associates who have defiled themselves with these women. When their sons have slain one another, and they have witnessed the destruction they have caused, bind them for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, until the day of their judgment." Michael, with unwavering obedience, descended to earth with his heavenly host. The fallen angels, knowing their end was near, were seized with fear. Yet, as the ground quaked and the skies roared with the approach of divine wrath, another story began to unfold, one of mercy and salvation for the women ensnared by the fallen angels' deceptions. Alara, pure of heart, had been swept into this chaos without understanding the gravity of her involvement. As Michael's forces closed in, she and the other women watched, paralyzed by fear. But then, Gabriel's words brought a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. "These women shall not be condemned," he declared. "The Lord has seen their suffering and chooses to save them from the abyss." As Gabriel's words echoed through the valley, the atmosphere began to change. The oppressive darkness that had surrounded the women started to lift, and a soft, warm light bathed the earth. This light was not just a physical illumination, but a manifestation of divine presence, a signal that the Almighty had intervened. The women, who moments ago were on the brink of despair, began to feel a sense of peace wash over them. Their trembling ceased, and for the first time, they felt hope, a hope that transcended their fear and confusion. The story of Alara and the other women is one that has been whispered through the ages, often overshadowed by the grand narratives of angels and demons. But their tale is a crucial part of the greater cosmic drama, a reminder that even in the midst of divine retribution, mercy can be found. These women, who were once seen as mere pawns in a celestial game, were recognized by God for their innocence and purity of heart. As Michael prepared to carry out the Lord's command, he turned to the women with a gaze that was both stern and gentle. His voice, though powerful, was filled with compassion. "Fear not," he said, "for you are not condemned. The Lord has seen your suffering and has chosen to save you from the abyss. You shall not be bound to the fate of the fallen angels." A wave of relief washed over Alara and the others. They were lifted from the depths of despair by the promise of salvation. As the heavenly host set about binding Samaiza and his associates, the women were guided to a place of safety. In the valley of the earth, a portal opened, a gateway to a sanctuary where the women could find peace and healing. It was a place untouched by the corruption of the fallen angels, where the light of the heavens shone brightly, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers. As the women passed through the portal, they could feel the weight of their ordeal lifting off their shoulders. Alara, in particular, felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had been caught in a situation beyond her control, and yet she had been spared from a fate that she feared was inevitable. As she stepped into the sanctuary, she was overwhelmed by the beauty and tranquility that surrounded her. The garden was a paradise, a stark contrast to the chaos and destruction she had left behind. The sanctuary was not just a place of physical safety, but a spiritual haven as well. The angelic beings that greeted the women were not only their protectors but their guides. These celestial beings offered them comfort and began to teach them about the true nature of the events they had witnessed. They were taught about the nature of the fallen angels, the consequences of their actions, and the mercy that had been extended to them by the Lord. This knowledge was both humbling and empowering for the women. They learned that they were not just victims of circumstance, but part of a divine plan that was beyond their comprehension. As the days passed in the sanctuary, the women began to heal. The trauma of their past started to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose. They were not only given a second chance at life, but a mission. The angelic beings revealed to them that they were to be the guardians of this sacred space, to ensure that the evil that had once threatened the earth would never return. This task was a great honor, and the women accepted it with humility and determination. Alara, who had once been a simple maiden, now found herself in a position of responsibility. She was chosen as the leader of the Guardians, a role that she accepted with both reverence and resolve. Under her leadership, the sanctuary flourished, becoming a place of refuge and wisdom. The women who had once been innocent bystanders were now warriors of light, dedicated to protecting the earth from the darkness that had once consumed it. The story of Alara and the sanctuary became a legend passed down through generations. It was a story of redemption, of how the pure of heart were spared from destruction and given a new purpose. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, and that mercy can be found even in the midst of judgment. As for Michael and his host, their task was far from over. The fallen angels, bound in chains of light, were led away to their eternal prison. Their cries of despair echoed through the valleys, a stark contrast to the peace that now reigned in the sanctuary. The earth trembled one final time as the Almighty's decree took full effect, sealing the fate of the fallen angels and sparing the innocent who had been caught in their web of deception. In the sanctuary, the women continued to live, now under the guidance of the angelic beings. They were no longer the frightened and confused women they had once been, but strong and wise guardians of a sacred space that would stand as a beacon of hope and protection for all time. The garden, with its blooming flowers and tranquil waters, was a symbol of the new beginning. They had been granted a place where they could live in peace, free from the shadows of their past. The story of the fallen angels and the women they ensnared serves as a powerful testament to the boundless mercy of the Lord, even in the face of unimaginable transgressions. It is a story that reminds us that no matter how deep the darkness, the light of God's love and mercy can always prevail. And so, the legend of Alara and the sanctuary endures, a tale of redemption, hope, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. The forces of evil began to wane, their power diminishing as righteousness and truth started to take root. The Almighty commanded, "Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth. Let every evil work come to an end. Let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it shall be a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth, and joy forevermore." As these words were spoken, a transformation began. The righteous, those who had remained faithful and true, found themselves escaping the clutches of darkness. They were blessed with long lives, living in peace and prosperity. They beget thousands of children, and their days were filled with joy and contentment from youth to old age. The entire earth was tilled in righteousness. Fields that were once barren became fertile and full of life. Trees bearing all manner of desirable fruits sprang up, and vines heavy with grapes produced wine in abundance. The seeds sown in the earth yielded bountiful harvests, each measure bearing 1,000-fold. Olives pressed into oil flowed freely, a symbol of the newfound prosperity. The Almighty continued, "Cleanse the earth from all oppression, unrighteousness, sin, and godlessness. Destroy all uncleanness from off the earth. Let every child of man become righteous, and all nations shall offer adoration and praise. All shall worship me. The earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, sin, punishment, and torment, and I will never again send these upon it from generation to generation, forever." With these words, a profound peace settled over the world. The store chambers of blessing in the heavens were opened, and blessings rained down upon the earth. The children of men labored and toiled, but their work was now rewarded with abundance. Truth and peace were forever intertwined, shaping the days of the world and the generations of men. In this new era, the people lived harmoniously with nature and each other. The land flourished and communities thrived. The legacy of the wicked spirits and the children of the Watchers became a distant memory, a cautionary tale passed down through generations. The earth, once marred by sin and suffering, was now a paradise of righteousness and joy. Families gathered under the shade of bountiful trees, sharing stories of their ancestors' trials and triumphs. They celebrated the abundance of their harvests and the purity of their lives. The young learned from the old, and the wisdom of righteousness was cherished and upheld. As the years turned into centuries, the world remained a beacon of hope and light. The teachings of the Almighty guided the hearts of men, and the promise of eternal peace was fulfilled. The spirits of the reprobate and the children of the Watchers were forgotten, their influence erased by the overwhelming power of righteousness. And so, the earth continued to be a place of blessing and joy, where truth and peace reigned supreme. The people lived in harmony, their hearts filled with gratitude for the Almighty's mercy and justice. They knew that as long as they upheld the principles of righteousness and truth, the world would remain a paradise for all generations to come. In this land of eternal peace, the words of the Almighty echoed as a reminder: truth and peace shall be associated together throughout all the days of the world and throughout all the generations of men. And so it was, and so it would always be. Thank you for your support.